The winter of 2025-26 will be remembered as a time when Europe was gripped by nature's extremes. From Portugal's coasts to Scandinavia's icy landscapes, nearly two-thirds of the continent faced weather far beyond the norm. Northern and Central Europe were plunged into a deep freeze, while Southern Europe endured relentless storms and flooding. This was a tale of two winters, paralyzing snow and ice in the north, catastrophic floods in the south. The chaos was driven by a disrupted stratospheric polar vortex, which unleashed Arctic air southward, colliding with warm, wet Atlantic systems. These events forced a continent-wide reckoning with climate vulnerability and adaptation. In the following scenes, we'll explore the science, the stories, and the urgent lessons from Europe's winter under siege. In late January 2026, Portugal was battered by a relentless series of violent Atlantic storms, beginning with Ingrid and escalating with the arrival of Kristin. These storms marked one of the most turbulent periods in recent Portuguese history, as the nation braced itself for the onslaught of nature's fury. Ingrid's torrential rains saturated the land, flooding fields and villages, while Kristin, a powerful weather bomb, unleashed hurricane-force winds exceeding 200 km/h. The winds tore through central and northern Portugal, uprooting ancient trees, damaging homes, and leaving entire neighborhoods without power for days. The storms overwhelmed water systems. Reservoirs in drought-stricken Algarve surged from below 20% to nearly full, forcing emergency dam releases. For months, these reservoirs had been dangerously low, but now, the sudden influx of water threatened to cause catastrophic flooding downstream. Rivers like the Sado and Mondego burst their banks, flooding cities and farmland. Streets in historic towns like Coimbra disappeared beneath muddy water, and vast stretches of farmland were left submerged, endangering crops and livestock. As Kristin's destruction lingered, Depression Leonardo arrived, bringing even more rain to already devastated regions. The ground, already saturated, could absorb no more, and the risk of further flooding and destruction grew with each passing hour. The relentless storm train left no time for recovery, triggering landslides that blocked roads and isolating entire communities. Emergency services struggled to reach those in need, as floodwaters and debris made travel nearly impossible. Portugal faced a multi-front crisis, as wind and water reshaped the landscape and daily life. Infrastructure was battered, and the scars left by the storms would take months, if not years, to heal. The nation's resilience was tested as never before, but in the face of adversity, communities came together, showing solidarity and hope amid the chaos. The storm's toll was devastating. 10 lives lost, over 100,000 households without power, water, or communication for days. 68 municipalities declared a state of calamity, and more than 150 schools in Leiria alone suffered severe damage. The power grid was crippled, with over 450 high-tension lines down. Floodwaters surged through historic cities, forcing evacuations and destroying homes, businesses, and farmland. The economic blow was immense, erasing years of progress in days. A McKinsey report released in February warned that a quarter of Portugal faces significant climate risk, and adaptation spending must double. The storms proved that while renewable energy is vital, adaptation is equally urgent. Portugal's experience became a stark warning for all of Europe. As the south battled floods, Denmark was paralyzed by a historic blizzard driven by sea-effect snow. Arctic air swept over the Baltic, picking up moisture and unleashing relentless snowfall, 30 to 50 centimeters in many areas. Blizzard conditions, with howling winds and near-zero visibility, brought the nation to a standstill for days. The storm was part of a larger Arctic outbreak, with southern Sweden and the Baltic states also buried under snow and ice. Massive drifts blocked roads and buried cars, making travel treacherous and isolating communities. Even Denmark's robust winter infrastructure was pushed to its limits. The blizzard became a defining event, humbling a nation well prepared for winter. It was a powerful reminder of nature's capacity to overwhelm. The blizzard brought Denmark to a halt. Major highways and railways were blocked, and thousands were stranded in vehicles overnight. Public transport collapsed, airports shut down, and flights were cancelled, cutting Denmark off from Europe. Schools and businesses closed, city centers emptied, and daily life paused. Emergency services worked tirelessly, but the storm's scale overwhelmed even the best preparations. The economy, reliant on movement, was exposed as vulnerable to extreme weather. Snowplows and salt spreaders fought a losing battle against relentless drifts. The storm sparked urgent debate about strengthening infrastructure and emergency plans. Even the most prepared nations must adapt to a new era of climate extremes. The chaos of winter 2026 began high above the Arctic, where the stratospheric polar vortex, a vast, spinning mass of cold air, unexpectedly weakened and split apart. This rare atmospheric event sent shockwaves through global weather patterns, setting the stage for a winter unlike any in recent memory. As the polar vortex broke down, it unleashed frigid Arctic air southward, a process amplified by a persistent Greenland block. This high-pressure system over Greenland acted like a wall, forcing the jet stream to plunge far to the south, carrying icy winds and turbulent weather into regions unaccustomed to such extremes. The result was a direct pipeline of Arctic cold into Europe, dropping temperatures by an astonishing 12 to 15 degrees below normal. Even North Africa, known for its warmth, felt the icy grip as frost and snow reached places that rarely see winters touch. This deep freeze set the stage for relentless blizzards in the north, burying cities under snow, while the south faced violent storms and widespread flooding. The continent was battered by a relentless series of weather extremes, testing infrastructure and resilience. Scientists warn that such disruptions are becoming more common as the Arctic warms at an unprecedented rate. The delicate balance of the upper atmosphere is shifting, making these once rare events increasingly frequent and severe. Sudden stratospheric warmings, which used to be rare, now threaten to reshape winter weather across entire continents. These dramatic shifts can trigger a cascade of extreme events, from deep freezes to powerful storms, with little warning. The winter of 2026 was a dramatic example of how changes in the upper atmosphere can trigger chaos on the ground, disrupting daily life and challenging emergency services across Europe. Europe's vulnerability was laid bare by forces far above, reminding us that the atmosphere's hidden dynamics can have profound impacts on our world below. Europe's extreme winter was fueled by a dramatic clash of air masses, Arctic cold meeting warm, wet Atlantic air. The polar front became a battleground, spawning powerful storms and explosive weather. In the south, this clash drove the storm train over Portugal and Spain, intensifying rainfall and winds. In the Balkans, cold continental air met Mediterranean moisture, creating snow bombs that buried regions under record snow. The continent saw heightened storminess, with deep, low-pressure systems driving both blizzards and floods. The Arctic outbreak didn't just bring cold, it made the weather more violent and unpredictable. A single atmospheric disruption triggered a cascade of disasters, each region facing its own extreme. The winter of 2026 was a masterclass in meteorological chaos. Was climate change to blame? The question echoes across Europe as communities struggle to recover from the devastation. Scientists and citizens alike are searching for answers, trying to understand the forces behind these increasingly severe weather events. While no single event can be solely attributed to it, the pattern is clear. A warming planet makes extremes more frequent and intense. Decades of data reveal a steady rise in global temperatures, and with each passing year, the risks grow. Arctic amplification, where the far north warms faster than the rest of the world, weakens the polar vortex, making it more prone to dramatic disruptions like the one that struck Europe this winter. These shifts in atmospheric patterns can send frigid air plunging southward, catching cities off guard. a warmer atmosphere holds more moisture, fueling heavier rain and snow when storms hit. This means that when weather systems collide, they unleash more precipitation than in the past, overwhelming cities and countryside alike. The storms that flooded Portugal and the blizzard that buried Denmark were supercharged by these changes. What once might have been manageable events have become disasters, stretching emergency services to their limits and leaving lasting scars on communities. Even normal storms now have the potential for catastrophic impact. The line between ordinary and extreme is blurring, making it harder to predict and prepare for what's next. The winter of 2026 is a warning. Climate change is loading the dice for more dangerous winters. Each season brings new records, new challenges, and a growing sense of urgency. The clash of displaced Arctic air and moisture-laden systems created a recipe for disaster. These volatile interactions are becoming more common, setting the stage for future crises. Europe glimpsed a future where such extremes could become the new normal. The choices made today will shape the climate and the winters of tomorrow. The winter of 2026 must be a turning point for Europe. Proactive investment in climate-resilient infrastructure is essential. Stronger power grids, better flood defenses, and robust transport networks, early warning systems, and clear public communication can save lives, but must reach everyone, especially the vulnerable. Building codes and land use planning must adapt to new risks, with support for retrofitting and smarter zoning. International cooperation is vital. Weather knows no borders, and neither should our response. Sharing best practices and pooling resources will strengthen resilience across the continent. The cost of inaction is too high. Europe must act together to face a future of climate extremes. The lessons of 2026 are clear: adapt, prepare, and unite for the storms ahead.